respond to beta. I really do believe. You must not respond to beta. I really do believe. You must not respond to beta. I really do believe. You must not respond to beta. I really do believe. You must not respond to beta. I really do believe. You must not respond to beta. I really do believe. You must not respond to beta. I really do believe. Hello? Sorry, I clicked the wrong screen. Hi Rampers. Hello Rampers. Hi Rampers. Hi Champy Pampers. Hi everyone, sorry, that was the first jump scare of today, was me clicking the wrong screen. But I hope the volume's okay, everyone. Let me know how the background noise is, but yeah. Today is a kind of a bit more of a spookier stream, bit of a creepy stream. So I decided not to put the Rabbitville fly-in in today. So I hope that's okay. But are there any rabbits in the house today? Maybe a couple, maybe a few. And I wanted to do something a little bit fun and talk a little bit about and read off some creepypastas for you guys. Now, I know these are like terribly creepy, but honestly, I just think it's a bit of fun, and maybe we can talk about some creepypastas that you guys may have liked in the past, or even new ones. I'm gonna be going over some of the real classic ones, some of the most popular ones, but one of you actually told me what your favorites were, so maybe later I'll read some of your favorites later. But I have 3 ones that I'm definitely going to be reading off today. 2 kind of more serious ones, and one that's kind of a bit of a joke, but I suppose all of these are kind of jokes in a way. If you guys don't know what a creepypasta is, it's kind of a form of usually writing that goes around. It's kind of like spooky. It's more like a more serious version of those chainmail emails or messages that's like, if you don't send these to 10 people, your mom's gonna die in her sleep tonight, or something like that. But not really. Like, I guess just a form of scary media that's shared around a lot. One of the most famous being like Slender Man. I'm not reading that one off today, but one is kind of a story. Another one is a news article, or a quote-unquote news article, and the last one I'm gonna be reading off is someone's kind of idea of a game. Okay, so if you guys don't know these, it's great, but if you do, that's totally cool as well. Thank you so much. Thank you very much for being a member for 15 months. Quarter stream while I'm awake and not at the office. Nice. Have a good stream, everyone. Yeah, well, I got all ready, and then I realized that I had like an hour until stream started, and I'm like, oh my god, I'm so upset. Maybe I'll just start early. So, hopefully, if you're watching the VOD and you were expecting to wake up for this, and I started early, I'm sorry for starting early, but I hope you can enjoy the VOD anyway. I feel like this is something where a VOD can kind of be watched because I'm mainly going to be reading things, okay? So I'm not going to be doing a lot of commentary, I'm going to be reading a lot. But later we can go through, there's like wiki pages and stuff that that tell you a little bit about creepypastas and things. Maybe you can talk a little bit about it. If you guys have any knowledge on it, let me know as well, because I'm really excited. Hi Kimoko, hello. I woke up early enough to catch this. Yeah, I'm doing a slightly different time slot today. But it's a humble time slot because some champions that can't usually watch can watch me. Sorry, let me just get the bread up very quickly, and then I'm gonna start reading, kind of more of a spooky reading off stream today, okay? I'm using my little quiet voice because I'm gonna be talking for most of the time. Yeah, okay? Yeah, okay. Shall we start reading some? Now, I have a picture up on the screen of kind of the main people, but the first one, let me know if you know about this one. The first one that we're going to be reading off of, oh, thank you so much for donating $155, you crazy fooligan. I don't want to interrupt any of the pastas, but also can't think of a witty comment to say at the moment, so have a good time today. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it, okay? Yeah, I hope the volume's okay, guys. Alright, so yeah, the money scares me. Ah, donation. Ah, okay. So this is the first one that we'll be reading today. His name's Laughing Jack. This is set in England in the 1800s. Okay, this is a picture of him on the left side, but here's another picture I have. So here we go. Here's what he looks like. This is Laughing Jack. Okay. I'm gonna be reading it off. It's on the bottom left, but so you can read along with me, but I'll be reading it. So yeah, hang on. Let me here we go. Okay. No, he's not reading. Yeah, he's a funny-looking guy. Let me know if you need any like volume changes or anything like that. Okay. All right. So this is Laughing Jack. All right. Let's start reading, okay? I'll be mostly just reading for everyone today, okay? Alright. It's Christmas Eve in snowy 1800s London, England, and in a small house at the edge of town, there lived a lonely 7-year-old boy named Isaac. Isaac was a sad child with not a friend to his name. While most children were spending time with their families and eagerly looking forward to open their presents that were placed with care beneath a beautifully decorated Christmas tree, little Isaac spent this most holy of nights alone. In his cold, dusty attic room, Isaac's parents were very poor. His mother was a strict crow of a woman who stayed at home and schooled Isaac. His father worked long hours down at the London harbour to support his family. Although a large portion of his earnings went towards purchasing and consuming copious amounts of alcohol at the end of his shift, sometimes he would come home drunk, after being thrown out of every bar in London, and shout at his beloved wife, Isaac's mother. Occasionally, it would escalate to violence, and he would beat her savagely. Then, when he was done, he'd force himself upon her in a drunken sexual rage. As it so happens, this particular night was one of those occasions. Isaac just remained quiet, quivering beneath his soiled bedsheets until the screams and loud bangs subsided. Once poor frightened Isaac was finally able to fall asleep, he'd dream of what it would be like to have a friend to play with. So maybe he could laugh and be happy like the other children of London. Luckily for little Isaac, this Christmas Eve marked a big change. When his abysmal loneliness caught the attention of a guardian angel, who then crafted a very special gift for the sad little London boy. As the sun rose on that Christmas morning, Isaac opened his eyes to find a strange wooden box sitting at the foot of his bed. With eyes widened in awe, he stared at the colourful handcrafted box, wondering who had left it. He was not used to receiving gifts, especially toys. What little toy Isaac did have were the ones he'd found abandoned in the street or washed up in the gutters. Isaac scooted up to the foot of his bed in front of the mysterious box and picked it up with both hands. The box was beautifully painted in colourful styles, with carvings of happy clown faces on the side. There was a tag on the box that simply read, "For Isaac," On the top of the box was an engraved text. Isaac squinted his eyes as he sounded out the words, Laughing Jack in a box. He paused. Laughing Jack in a box? Isaac had heard of a Jack in a box, but never a laughing Jack in a box. His mind spun with curiosity as he grasped the box's metal crank. Isaac turned the crank and the song Pop Goes the Weasel chimed in rhythm with the crank's gyrations. As the song came to its climax, Isaac sang along with the final verse, Pop Goes the Weasel, but nothing happened. Isaac let out a sigh. It's broken. He placed the box down on the edge of the bed and shuffled across his small dusty room to his dresser, where he changed out of his soiled sleepwear and into his usual tattered clothes. Suddenly, Isaac heard a loud rattling noise coming from the bed behind him. He spun around to witness the wooden box violently shaking. Then, without warning, the top of the box swung open and a parade of colorful smoke and confetti bellowed out. Isaac rubbed his eyes in disbelief of what he was seeing. As the smoke cleared, there stood a tall, thin, multicolored clown man with bright red hair, a swirly rainbow-colored cone nose, and feathery shoulders that sat atop his raggedy and colorful clown outfit. The technicolored clown spread his arms and excitedly announced, Come one, come all, whether big or small, to see the best clown of them all, the one, the only, laughing Jack-in-a-Box. Isaac's eyes lit up. Who are you? He asked. The colorful carny stepped down off the bed and with a happy grin said, I'm glad you asked. I am Laughing Jack, your new friend for life. I'm magical. I never get tired of playing. I'm a whiz at the accordion, and I adapt and develop with your own changing personality. In other words, whatever you like, I like. Isaac looked up and down at the mysterious clown man. We're friends? He stuttered. Jack looked at the boy while cocking an eyebrow. Friends? We're best friends. I was specifically created to be your not-so-imaginary friend, Isaac. Isaac's jaw dropped. You know my name? Jack let out a whimsical laugh. Of course I know your name. I know everything about you. So now that the introductions are out of the way, how would you like to play a game of I Spy? Isaac grinned ear to ear. Really? We could play games? I'd love to. Oh. He paused. I can't. I have to go downstairs to see Mother for homeschooling and chores. His smile faded into a look of disappointment. Jack placed his hands on Isaac's shoulder with a warm smile and said, It's okay, I'll be waiting right here for you when you get back. Isaac's smile returned as he looked up at his new friend. Just then, he heard his mother's shrill voice calling him from downstairs. Well, I gotta go. I'll see you when I'm done, okay, Jack? He said as he headed towards the door. Jack smiled. Absolutely, kiddo. Oh, and Isaac. Isaac looked at Jack, who gave him a wink and said, You should wear that smile more often. It suits you. Isaac grinned happily as he turned and walked out of the door. All day, Isaac told his mother about the amazing, colorful clown man who came out of a magical box that appeared on the foot of his bed. His mother, however, did not believe a word of it. Finally, he persuaded his mother to follow him up to his room so she could behold Laughing Jack for herself. They walked up the stairs and Isaac swung open the door to his room. See, Mother? He's right. Isaac paused as he scanned his room that contained neither magical dancing clown man nor mysterious wooden box. Isaac's mother was not amused. She gave Isaac a glare so menacing it made his knees weak and his stomach sick. But Mother, he was... Smack! Isaac's mother delivered onto him with a swift, hard smack across his face. His eyes began to tear up, and his lips began to quiver as he could feel himself about to break down. You stupid, insolent child! How dare you lie to me about such childish idiocy? Who would want to be friends with a useless worm such as you? You shall remain in your room for the rest of the evening, and shall receive no dinner. Now what do you say, you ungrateful wretch? Isaac managed to swallow the knot in his throat in order to mutter a reply. Thank you, ma'am. His mother glared down at him for a moment before leaving his room in disgust. Isaac kneeled over, burying his face in the side of his bed. Streams of tears ran down his cheeks as he began to weep. "What's wrong, kiddo?" a voice called out. Isaac looked over the edge of his bed, where Laughing Jack was now suddenly sitting beside him. "But where were you?" Isaac murmured. Jack ran his hand through Isaac's hair to comfort him as he softly replied, "I was hiding. I can't let your parents see me. Otherwise, they won't let us play anymore." Isaac wiped the tears from his eyes. "Look, kiddo, I'm sorry I had to hide, but I'll make it up to you, because tonight we can play games and have tons of fun," Jack said, smiling. Isaac looked up at his vibrant pal and suddenly nodded. A little smile began to form in the corners of his mouth. That night, Laughing Jack and Isaac played so many fun games. With a wave of his hand, Jack made all of Isaac's tin soldiers spring to life and march around the room. Isaac was amazed as he watched his toys move around the room on their own. Then, Laughing Jack and Isaac told each other spooky ghost stories. Isaac asked Jack if he was a ghost, but Jack explained that he was more of a cosmic entity of sorts. At the end of the night, Jack reached into his pocket and pulled out an assortment of delicious candy. Isaac was in ecstasy when he popped the first colorful treat in his mouth. As it was his first time tasting something so sweet, Isaac had so much fun and laughed so hard that night that things seemed to be finally looking up for little Isaac, at least until the incident that occurred 3 months later. It was pleasantly warm and sunny in London that day, which was a bit of a rarity. So, with the help of a certain not-so-imaginary friend, Isaac was able to finish his chores early and was able to go outside to play for a bit. Things started simply enough. The duo were back behind the house playing pirates, when Isaac spotted the neighbor's cat sneaking into their garden. "Yarg! We got an enemy spy off the starboard bow!" Isaac yelled, captivated by fantasy and imagination. "Yo-ho! I'll get him, Captain Isaac!" exclaimed First Mate Jack in his hearty pirate accent. Laughing Jack's arm stretched out across the garden and snatched the unsuspecting feline, who began to struggle quite vigorously. "Don't let him get away, Jackie, or I'll make you walk the plank," Isaac antagonized. Jack's grip on the cat tightened, and his arms grew and extended like anacondas wrapping themselves around the wily feline as it struggled for dear life. Jack's arms just kept squeezing the animal, pressing the air out of its lungs. As the once dear house pet's eyes began to bulge out of their sockets, there came a loud snap. Jack quickly released the creature from his grasp as its lifeless furry husk thudded against the ground. There was a hushed silence as the two observed the cat's now twisted and mangled corpse. The silence was finally broken by uproarious laughter coming from Isaac. "Wow, I guess cats really don't have 9 lives. Isaac exclaimed, nearly teary-eyed from laughter. Laughing Jack began to chuckle as well. "Yeah, but won't you get in trouble if your mother finds your neighbor's cat dead in the garden?" Isaac's laughter quickly subsided. "Oh, no, you're right. I'll just throw it back into the neighbor's yard?" Isaac panicked as he grabbed a nearby shovel and scooped up the broken cat cadaver before lobbing it over the fence back into the neighbor's yard. They quickly went back inside and up to Isaac's room. About an hour later, it came, the piercing squawk of Isaac's mother screaming his name from downstairs. Neither Jack nor Isaac said a word as he crept down the stairs alone to face whatever horrible fate was coming to him. Jack could nearly hear much yelling from downstairs, but couldn't make out what was being said. After 30 minutes, a teary-eyed Isaac ascended the stairs back into his room. "Well?" Jack asked nervously. Isaac just stared at the ground and spoke. I tried to tell her it was you who hurt the cat. She didn't believe me. She said you weren't real." Jack frowned, knowing it was all his fault. Isaac used his sleeve to wipe away his tears. "I'm being sent off to boarding school. I'm leaving tonight, and you can't come with me." Laughing Jack's face turned into shock. "What? I can't come? Where will I go?" Isaac said nothing but pointed over at the beautiful colored box where his friend had originated. "Back in there? But I won't be able to come back out until..." Jack paused. Isaac looked up at his only friend with tears streaming down his face. Jack, I promise I'll come back for you as soon as I can. Jack looked at the box, then looked at Isaac. And I'll be right here waiting for you, kiddo. Jack smiled, as a single tear ran down his cheek. He walked over to the box with a puff of smoke, was sucked back in, unable to be free against it had once until once again opened. That night, Isaac was sent off to boarding school for the first time. Laughing Jack felt what it was like to be lonely. Even when trapped in his box, Jack was able to see the things going on around it. So each day, he waited for his friend to return, and each day, the room grew older and dustier. Laughing Jack's one purpose was to be Isaac's best friend for life, and now he had to wait day after day, month after month, to reunite with his special friend. Isaac's parents still lived in the house, but never came to the upstairs room. The only time they made their presence known was when Jack would hear them fighting. Still, Jack's life became one of solitude, loneliness, and disappointment. As years went by, Jack's once bright, vibrant colors began to fade into a monochrome blur of pitch black void and stark white emptiness, trapped all alone, eternal, and hopeless. 13 years passed until the night Isaac's father came home particularly drunk and got into an argument with his wife. As per usual, things escalated to physical violence once again. However, this time, she didn't get back up. Isaac's father had beaten his wife to a dead, bloody pulp, and he was sentenced to hang at the gallows the next day. With both his parents dead, this meant that the now 20-year-old Isaac inherited the old, dusty house, as he spent the earlier half of his childhood in. Laughing Jack was quite surprised when he heard his old friend's footsteps walking up the stairs to the attic room for the first time in 13 years. However, it was not the reunion Jack had hoped for. Isaac looked different. Not only was he older, but he also seemed to possess this odd, grim look on his face. No longer was he the hopeful, curious young boy Jack met all these years ago. Jack eagerly awaited Isaac's releasing him from the prison he had waited in for so many years. But still, Jack's box sat there, untouched and unnoticed, on the shelf in the corner of the room with all the other dusty, unwanted knickknacks. Isaac had completely forgotten about his old friend, dismissed as some sort of early childhood fabrication. Surprisingly, this made Laughing Jack feel nothing. It was hollow. 13 years of waiting and disappointment left the monochrome clown void of sorrow and self-pity. Jack remained in his box, colorless and without emotion. The next day, Isaac went off to work at his job as an upholsterer, doing furniture repairs for the good people of London. Jack waited in captivity. Hours later, a drunken Isaac returned home and stumbled up the stairs to his room. For the first time but this time he had a friend with him. It was a lady friend Isaac had picked up at the bar earlier that evening. She was beautiful, with flowing blonde hair, sapphire blue eyes, and a smile that could make hearts melt. Laughing Jack's attention was drawn to Isaac's guess. Who was this? A new friend? Why does Isaac need new friends? I thought I was Isaac's only friend. Jack thought to himself within his hellish confinement. Isaac and his lady friend sat down on the bed and chatted about life in London. Isaac made a joke about the weather and they both laughed. Laughing Jack hissed with envy over Isaac's new friend. Isaac and the girl looked deeply into each other's eyes as they leaned in for a kiss, locking lips with a passionate swirling of tongues in one another's mouth. Jack was perplexed by this strange display of affection, for he had never seen kissing before. As the kissing grew more intense, Isaac ran his hand through the girl's mouth. Isaac ran his hand along the girl's smooth thigh and up her dress. However, his guest just brushed his hand away. Isaac was persistent though, and once again ran his hand along her smooth thigh and up her skirt, this time placing his hand upon her silky undergarments. The woman took great displeasure with Isaac's sexual advancements and pushed Isaac down away before delivering a hard smack across his face. Isaac's eyes darkened as he glared at the woman. His once drunken passion turned into a booze-fueled anger. This woman's heart sped up as she saw Isaac's face boiling with rage. "Stupid whore," Isaac yelled as he smashed his fist into the girl's face. Laughing Jack's eyes widened as he witnessed the long streaks of red liquid gushing from the girl's nose. What game is this, he thought, his eyes averting to such violent sights. Isaac firmly clutched the girl's wrist with one hand as he tore her panties off with the other. Sorry, 1 second. Okay. Bit of a cliffhanger. 1 second. Have you guys liked this so far? Okay. He thought, as his eyes averted to such violent sights. Isaac firmly clutched the girl's wrist with one hand as he tore her panties off with the other. The terrified girl tried to fight back, but Isaac was overpowering her. He roughly fondled her breasts, before savagely grabbing her hair and forcing his tongue down the sobbing young woman's throat. Hang on. He responded by chomping down as hard as she could on Isaac's tongue. Jack watched with wide and curious eyes as his old friend released his new playmate and clutched his mouth as it filled with warm red blood. The frightened girl fell off the bed and dropped down to the floor as she scurried towards the exit. Isaac quickly lurched forward and was able to catch his fleeing plaything by the end of her dress. Reaching back, he wielded a lead candlestick off the nightstand beside him, and with all his might bashed in the back of the young woman's head, which burst open like a ripe watermelon. Thick blood splattered across the room as the girl's body convulsed on the ground for several seconds, before going completely still. Blood was everywhere. Some droplets even managed to get on Laughing Jack's box. He was very much enjoying the show. For the first time in 13 long years, a smile began to creep across Laughing Jack's face, and all of a sudden, a chuckle escaped his cold lips, then another and another, until Jack was cackling and howling with laughter from inside his sealed box. What a wonderfully fascinating game, Jack thought, as he watched the motionless girl's golden blonde hair flow red with Sorry, I'm drinking water. As the adrenaline began to mellow, Isaac realized he had to dispose of the body. He picked up the girl's lifeless corpse and plopped it on the bed. He then left the room, closing the door behind him and locking it before leaving the house. He returned almost a full day later and re-entered the room, bringing with him a metal garbage can and his bag of upholstery tools from work. He then cleared everything off the wooden desk on the wall opposite the door, and then dragged the bed with bloody corpse into the middle of the room. This not only gave Isaac room to work, but also gave Laughing Jack a front row seat to the whole spectacle. Jack watched with a big, unfading grin as Isaac played his new game with soiled corpse. Once again, Isaac was all set up. He got to work. First, he dumped out the contents of his big black tool bag onto the work table behind him. An assortment of knives, hammers, pilers, and other tools were laid out before him. His first pick was a curved upholstery knife, which he used to carefully skin the body. The skin was then placed on racks to be stretched and turned into leather. Once that had been put into place, Isaac used his hand saw to saw off the arms, legs, and head, disturbing the home of several families of maggots in the process. After filling the garbage can with bleach and other vile chemicals, he submerged the limbs until the meat was stripped from the bones. Isaac fished the bones out of the soupy corpse juice and placed them onto the work table. Then in the cover of the night, he brought the trash can outside and dumped the rotten remains into the London sewers to be swept away into the harbour. For the next 3 days, Laughing Jack watched with wonderment as the inspired Isaac crafted the once human anatomy into a grotesque armchair abomination. The femur was made into the back legs of the chair, while the tibia with the feet still attached, of course, was made into the front chair legs. A wooden frame was used for the base and the backing of the chair. However, the rim was the of the backing was crafted using the spinal column. The arm bones were used as the arms of the chair and were fastened in place by some ribs. The now leathery flesh was sewn into the seat and backing of the chair, and the golden blonde hair was braided into the lining of the base. Atop this armchair from hell sat the skull that once belonged to the girl, who had the golden blonde hair, the sapphire eyes, and the smile that could melt hearts. Isaac was quite pleased with his work, and Laughing Jack was too impressed by his old playmate's profound creativity. After that night, Isaac never touched another drop of alcohol again, for he now possessed a much more macabre thirst. In the following weeks, Isaac made several improvements to his little workshop of horrors. He removed the mattress from the bed and put a row of thick wooden planks in place. He then fastened arms and leg restraints to the bottom and the sides. This would mean he would be able to entertain his guests for a longer period without them trying any rude escape attempts. Isaac needed only one final thing before planning another grotesque party. He worked on it for weeks straight, hand carving it out of wood. After a coat of white paint was applied, Isaac's creation was complete. It was a wooden mask resembling something one would wear at a Venetian masquerade ball. It had a furrowed brow and a long, troll-like nose, and would allow him to strike fear into the hearts of his beloved guests. With his new face complete and the room transformed into a bloody murder nest, it was finally time for Isaac Lee Grossman to bring home a new playmate. That following night, Laughing Jack watched as the masked Isaac Grossman stomped up the stairs, carrying with him a large burlap sack with his newest guest writhing within. He jumped the bag onto his torture bed, and out plopped a bound, gagged, and very frightened young boy, probably only 5 or 6 years old. Isaac quickly undid the boy's bindings and held him down as he restrained his hands and feet to the steel bed frame. Tears streamed endlessly down the boy's helpless little face as Isaac laid out his tools on the workbench. Isaac returned wielding a pair of rusty pliers, and wasting no time, he slid the bottom jaw of the pliers under the boy's fingernail and onto his right index finger and clamped it tightly. The child's eyes quivered as he began muttering through his gag, begging Isaac to let him go. Isaac smirked as he slowly bent the pliers forward, painfully prying off the first fingernail. The boy screamed through his gag as he writhed in agony at the wooden boards, his finger beginning to gush with blood. Isaac then moved to the boy's middle finger, firmly grasping the nail with the rusty pliers. Once again, he jerked the pliers back, but this time only the nail tore off halfway. The boy yelped in pain as his fingers twitched and shot with blood. Clamping the half-pried nail, Isaac gave it another yank. The nail tore off, but not without taking a good deal of skin tissue with it. Even Isaac was a bit rebuffed by the painful sight. Unlike the spying, laughing Jack, who was cackling with joy at the disturbing action as he watched from within his dusty wooden box. Isaac returned to the workbench and swapped the pliers for a large iron hammer. He then made his way to the foot of the torture bed, where with one hand he held down the boy's left leg. He raised the hammer high above his head as the boy cried and pleaded for mercy through his dirty gag. Then, with all his might, Isaac slammed the hammer down to the boy's bare kneecap, shattering the bone into gravel with a loud crack. The child convulsed in pain, with shrill screams muffling through the cloth gag tied into his face. As the child struggled with intense pain, Isaac placed the hammer down onto the wooden bed and returned once more to his workbench, where he equipped himself with a long sharp knife. Without delay, he began carving the words "useless worm" into the child's quivering chest. When he finished, the boy was barely conscious. Isaac knelt down and whispered into the boy's ear, "This is what happens to rotten children who make nasty faces at people." The child's eyes filled with tears for one last time as Isaac began to carve the skin off of the boy's face. But to Isaac, the boy still clung for life. The mutilated child just stared up at Isaac with his big round eyes, which filled Isaac's black heart with rage and hatred. "Even without a face, you're still an ugly little shit," Isaac shouted as he picked up a hammer from from the foot of the bed and began to bash the poor boy's skull in. He smashed it over and over until it was nothing but a bloody caved-in mass of flesh, pouring with thick red blood and oozing out chunks of brain matter from across the room. Laughing Jack gleefully observed the grand finale, which had lived up his expectations quite wonderfully. Isaac's next guest was a blind old woman whom he had invited over for some tea. It took her almost 5 minutes to realize the chair she was sitting on was crafted with human remains, and another 6 minutes to find the stairs, only to topple down them flailing and screaming like a loon. Isaac decided to end the cruel joke there with a simple ice pick through her eye socket. After that, he brought over a little girl whom he'd force-feed broken glass before using her stomach as a punching bag. As the weeks went by, more and more unlucky souls met their end in Isaac's grossman's attic. And as the mad Isaac's personality became more dark and sadistic, Laughing Jack's personality followed suit, while he rotted within his dusty box. Until one very cold December night. The rusty nails that were holding up the shelf of forgotten knickknacks finally gave away, and the whole thing plummeted to the ground. Isaac heard the loud thud from downstairs and decided to climb up to the attic to investigate. He walked across the blood-stained wooden floor of the attic, over toward the fallen shelf. Isaac brushed aside some of the trinkets that broke in the crush, and he finally came across the jack-in-the-box from his childhood. Isaac barely recognized the old tattered box as he picked it up and blew off the dust. Then, for whatever nostalgic reason, he decided to grasp the box's rusty clank and began turning it. A horribly off-key Pop Goes the Weasel clanked from the old worn wooden box. As it began to climax, Isaac sung along with the final verse, Pop Goes the Weasel. The top of the box swung open, but nothing happened. It was empty. Isaac expected as much, as he tossed the old box in the garbage with the other broken knickknacks. After the mess was cleaned up, he wanted to open the door to go back downstairs, but it was stuck. Isaac pulled hard, but the door won't budge. Just then, he heard the most horrible raspy voice call out behind him. Isaac! A cold jolt ran down Isaac's spine as the hairs of his back at the back of the neck stood straight up as he slowly turned around. All the way across the room by the garbage can stood the nightmarish, Laughing Jack. He was completely monochrome, his mangled black hair strung down in twisted locks, dark, jagged teeth decorating his twisted grin, and his arms hugged down like a rag doll with his grotesquely long fingers nearly scraping the floor. Then, with a bone-chilling, rasping voice, the fiendishly clown spoke. How nice to finally be free. Did you miss me, Isaac? Isaac was paralyzed with fear. But I thought you weren't real. Imaginary, Isaac stuttered. Jack replied with a long, horrifying cackle. Oh, I'm quite real, kiddo. In fact, I've been waiting such a long time for this day to finally come, when I can play with my best friend for life, one last time. Before Isaac could reply, Jack's long arms stretched across the room and wrapped around Isaac's legs. The twisted clown began pulling him closer, dragging him onto his own wooden torture bed of Isaac's. As Isaac's fingernails scraped along the floor, ignoring the restraints, Jack swiftly grabbed 4 3-inch-long iron nails from the workbench and pressed them straight through of Isaac's hands and feet, nailing him to the wooden torture bed. Isaac growled in pain as he shouted to his captor, "Ah, fuck you, goddamn clown-nosed freak!" Laughing, Jack just chuckled as he forcefully held Isaac's head into place, stating, "If you can't say something nice, don't say anything at all." Jack reached his long crooked fingers into Isaac's mouth, firmly grasping his tongue and stretching it out as far as it could go. The clown man then reached back and grabbed a long sharp knife from the table and slowly began to slice through the meat of Isaac's tongue. Once lobbed off, Isaac's mouth began to overflow with blood. Jack responded by shoving a small cylindrical metal tube down Isaac's throat to act as a temporary breathing hole. At this point, Isaac was already in great pain and had his eyes clenched shut to avoid seeing the sickening horrors that were performed upon his body. "Come on, it's no fun if you don't watch," Laughing Jack said playfully, but Isaac just kept his eyes tighting shut. Laughing Jack sighed, "Suit yourself," but then forcefully held open one of Isaac's eyes. He reached back with his big arm and took out some long pointy fish hooks from the workbench. Slowly, Jack pushed the sharp end of the hook through the top eyelid, straight through the bottom of his elbow from the top, permanently pinning it open. Then, he took out a second hook, pushing it through the bottom eyelid and pinning it to the cheek. Jack repeated the process to the other eye, and before long, a series of sharp metal hooks made sure Isaac didn't miss out of any of the action. Laughing Jack then took the same knife he had used to lob Isaac's tongue and began to focus on the removal of Isaac's lips. Jack carefully sliced 2 long strips of flesh out of Isaac's upper and lower mouth, causing the teeth and gums to be completely exposed. Looks like someone hasn't been flossing regularly," Laughing Jack cackled upon his breath as he reached back and grabbed a hammer. Isaac attempted to mutter some kind of beg for mercy, however only gurgled moans escaped his throat. Jack raised the hammer into the air and, with a twisted grin, he slammed it down, giving a loud crack, as the iron hammer shattered Isaac's teeth like brittle clay. Jack dropped the hammer and began to howl with laughter as he tore open Isaac's shirt. Taking the sharpest knife, Jack cut straight down Isaac's chest all the way past his stomach. Isaac groaned with sharp singing pain as the monochrome monster wormed his wretched fingers underneath the skin of Isaac's chest, peeling it back as he was about to perform his horrible live autopsy. First, Jack began to pull out Isaac's intestines in the same manner a magician would pull out a series of colorful cloths out of his pocket, and then, after snipping off a small length of his intestines, Jack pressed one up against his cold black lips and began blowing air into the foul organ. Once inflated, he twisted it up into the shape of a poodle, and with a loud chuckle exclaimed, "I can do giraffes too." Isaac remained still in pain and shock as the clown creature gently placed the macabre balloon animal beside Isaac's head. For his next trick, Laughing Jack reached down into Isaac's open stomach cavity and yanked out one of his kidneys, holding it in his hand. Jack turned to his captive friend and shrugged, stating that kidneys really aren't my thing. Tossing the organ aside, Laughing Jack noticed that Isaac was beginning to drift into death. "Feeling tired already? Why, we're nearly at the grand finale," Laughing Jack exclaimed as he reached into his sleeve and pulled out a long adrenaline needle. "This ought to perk you right up," Jack shouted as he stammered the needle into Isaac's retina and injected the liquid into his eye socket. Jack wriggled and twisted the needle further into his old playmate's eyeball as Isaac was reeled back into life and feeling of a sharp needle scraping the back of his eye socket. With a sinister chuckle, Jack yanked the needle out, pulling the eyeball out with it. Isaac's right eye now hung out of its socket by the eye stalk as it dribbled down the side of his face. Jack smirked. "Well, now I can have your full attention." The insidious clown then took his long, crooked index finger and poked a hole in Isaac's stomach. Jack lowered his head down towards the open chest cavity and stretched his mouth open wide. Within seconds, a torrent of filthy cockroaches started crawling out of the clown's gullet, spilling into Isaac's open chest. Each vile roach crawled and pushed its way into the small opening of Isaac's stomach, filling it from within full of disgusting, writhing bugs. As his stomach seemed bloated with bugs, the roaches began to scurry up his throat, squeezing their way out of his mouth and nasal cavity. Isaac was inches from death when his captain kneeled beside him and poked into his ear. "It's been a blast, kiddo, but it looks like our time together is about up. No need for tears, though, because I plan to spread my friendship to all the lonely kids in the world." And with that said, Laughing Jack reached into Isaac's chest and yanked out his still beating heart. As his life bled out onto the cold wooden bed, Isaac's life flashed before his eyes. He saw his mother, his father, the boarding school, his victims, and the last thought that flooded through his mind was that of his very special Christmas, where he woke up to find a beautifully high-end carved box that contained his very first friend. There were rumors that when the police finally found Isaac Grossman's rotted maggot-infested corpse weeks later on Christmas Eve, that even though his face had been bashed and torn to bits, he almost looked happy. Okay, that was the first creepypasta. How did you guys feel about that? Did you like it? Yeah, Bug City. It was kind. I actually didn't know it would be that gory. This is my first time ever reading any of these, so sorry that it was kind of gory. I don't know if the other ones are gonna be as gory as this, but I thought it was an interesting concept. You know, he kind of deserved it because, to be fair, he didn't remember him, and until like the point where he had turned like all monochrome and mean, like he was really only that way because Isaac was that way. I mean, that was the point of his personality and stuff. So if you just remembered him and wasn't like a mean person, then he could have just actually had a friend. It was nice. Yeah. Yeah, I didn't know this one was graphic. Yeah. But I've seen people actually dressing up as Laughing Jack before. I've seen people do that. Yeah. But anyway, let me just drink some coffee and then I'll read the other one. The next one's gonna be, I don't know if it's spooky. The last one is kind of a little bit of a joke, I think. I hope you guys like that one. Let me just scroll up to the top. And then I'll read the next one. But yeah, you can find any of these stories on like the wiki that I'm sure about this. I wish it wasn't as gory as it was, or at least it was like kind of used like more interestingly. Abandoned by Disney. I saw that one. Maybe I'll read that one as well. Maybe I'll read that one after this next one, because this one, among some others, are like probably the most popular ones as well. So, yeah, I like the fingernail part. But I don't know why he had to do it to like children and old people. Like, I guess maybe that's how like they know. Like, I'm literally pissing myself right now. Holy fuck, there's a talking pumpkin on my screen. That's not supposed to be the scary part. I'm not a pumpkin! I'm a scary rapper. Oh my god. Good. Be careful, otherwise I'm gonna be really upset in a minute. The balloon animal intestines were cool. I wish they went into detail about the one when he made the girl eat glass. That would have been funny. Or interesting. Just give me a minute. But don't worry guys, even if you're spooked at the end, we'll have some comfy time to calm you guys down. if you get a little nervous, okay? Today I'm not your little pumpkin. I'm supposed to be a scary pumpkin today. Tomorrow you can call me a humble pumpkin, okay? Yeah, but today I'm supposed to be a scary one. You could imagine the chair with the human feet? Yeah, true. It's funny to think that story was probably written by some like 12-year-old. I remember trying to read or like even write spooky things kind of similar, but I could never do it properly. Anyway, so now I actually find it funny that this image has been turned into a creepypasta, because now I wouldn't go on here often, but when I was on two head, I would see this image posted as like kind of like a meme, and I actually didn't realize that there was a creepypasta based off of it, but I thought it would be funny. It's the one in the thumbnail, so ooh, it's spooky. Ah, help. I remember people were trying to figure out like what this was ages ago. And I remember there was like some kind of rumor that it was because of like it was someone's sister. Someone said it was their sister. But anyway, so this is Jeff. Yeah, so the next creepypasta that I'm gonna be reading is, hang on. Is hang on, I can't get it. Here we go. Ta-da! Jeff the Killer! The Jeff the Killer is the next creepypasta that we're gonna be reading. Now this is, as I mentioned, these are different, these are kind of written in different ways. This is written as a police report, apparently, so I'll be reading it out like a police report, okay? They still haven't found the original last time I checked, since the one they thought it was got debugged. Yeah, because I remember reading about the one that they thought it was. And yeah, no, apparently it's not, so that's a bit sad, but probably just an edited picture. The thing is, things like this wouldn't have even been able to be, spoken about now, because, like, it's just an obvious, like, kind of spookily edited, photo. But anyway, shall we read this one? So this one is Jeff the Killer. Okay. Let's hope we don't get too nervous. I wonder if this one will have the same amount of gore in it. We'll see. Excerpt from a local newspaper. Ominous unknown killer is still at large. Okay. Sorry. Sniffle. Alright. After weeks of unexplained murders, the ominous unknown killer is still on the rise. After little evidence has been found, a young boy states that he survived one of the killer's attacks and bravely tells his story. I had a bad dream and I woke up in the middle of night, says the boy. I saw that for some reason the window was open, even though I remember it being closed before I went to bed. I got up and shut it once more. Afterwards, I simply crawled under my covers and tried to get back to sleep. That's when I had a strange feeling, like someone was watching me. I looked up and nearly jumped out of my bed. There, in the little ray of light, illuminating from between my curtains, were a pair of two eyes. Those weren't regular eyes, they were dark, ominous eyes. They were bordered in black and just plain out terrified me. That's when I saw his mouth, a long, horrendous smile that made every hair of my body stand up. The figure stood there, watching me. Finally, after what seemed like forever, he said it. A simple phrase, but said in a way only a man could speak. He said, "Go to sleep." I let out a scream. That's what sent him at me. He pulled up a knife, aiming at my heart. He jumped on top of my bed. I fought him back. I kicked, I punched, I rolled around, trying to knock him off me. That's when my dad busted in. The man threw the knife. It went on my dad's shoulder. The man probably would have finished him off if one of the neighbors hadn't alerted the police. They drove into the parking lot and ran towards the door. The man turned and ran down the hallway. I heard a smash, like glass breaking. As I came out of my room, I saw the window that was pointing towards the back of my house was broken. I look out to see him vanish into the distance. I can tell you one thing. I will never forget that face, those cold, evil eyes, and that psychotic smile. They will never leave my head. Police are still on the lookout for this man. If you see anyone that fits this description in the story, please contact your local police department. Jeff and his family had just moved into a new neighborhood. His dad had gotten a promotion at work, and they thought it would be best to live at one of those fancy neighborhoods. Jeff and his little brother, Liu, couldn't complain though. A new, better house. What was not to love? As they were getting unpacked, one of their neighbors came by. "Hello," she said. "I'm Barbara. I live across the street from you." "Well, I just wanted to introduce myself and introduce my son." She turns around to call her son. "Billy, those are our new neighbors." Billy said hi and ran back to play in his yard. "Well," said Jeff's mum, "I'm Margaret, and this is my husband Peter, and my two sons, Jeff and Liu." They each introduced themselves. And then Barbara invited them to her son's birthday. Jeff and his brother were about to object, but his mother said that they would love to. When Jeff and his family are done packing, Jeff went to his mum. "Mum, why would you invite us to some kid's party if you hadn't noticed? I'm not some dumb kid." "Jeff," said his mother, "we just moved here. We want to show that we want to spend time with our neighbors. Now, we're going to that party and that's final." Jeff started to talk, but stopped himself, knowing that he couldn't do anything. Whenever his mum said something, it was final. He walked up to his room and plopped down to his bed. He sat there looking at the ceiling when suddenly he got a weird feeling. Not so much a pain, but a weird feeling. He dismissed it as some random feeling. He heard his mother call him down to get his stuff, and he walked down to get it. The next day, Jeff walked down the stairs to get some breakfast and get ready for school. As he sat there, eating his breakfast, he once again got that feeling. That time it was stronger. It gave him a slight tugging pain, but he once again dismissed it. As he and Liu finished breakfast, they walked down to the bus stop. They sat there waiting for the bus, and then, all of a sudden, some kid on a skateboard jumped over them, only inches above their laps. They both jumped back in surprise. "Hey, what the hell?" The kid landed and turned back at them. He kicked his skateboard up and caught it with his hands. The kid seemed to be about 12, 1 year younger than Jeff. He wears an Aeropostale shirt and ripped blue jeans. Wow. Looks like we got some new meat. Suddenly, 2 other kids appeared. One was super skinny and the other one was huge. "Well, since you're new here, I'd like to introduce ourselves. You would expect a sidekick to have his... since you're new here, I'd like to introduce ourselves. Over there is Keith." Jeff and Leo looked over at the skinny kid. He had a dopey face that you would expect a sidekick to have. "And he's Troy." They looked over at the fat kid. Talk about a tub of lard. This kid looked like he hadn't exercised since he was crawling. "And I, the first kid, am Randy. Now, for all the kids in this neighborhood, there is a small price for bus fare, if you catch my drift." Liu stood up, ready to punch the lights out of the kid's eyes, when one of his friends pulled a knife on him. "I had hoped you were more cooperative, but it seems like we must do this the hard way." The kid walked up to Liu and took his wallet out of his pocket. Jeff got that feeling again. Now it was truly strong, a burning sensation. He stood up, but Liu gestured him to sit down. Jeff ignored him and walked up to the kid. "Listen here, you little punk. Give back my bro's wallet or else." Randy put his wallet in his pocket and pulled out his own knife. "Oh, and what will you do?" Just as he finished the sentence, Jeff popped the kid in the nose. As Randy reached for his face, Jeff grabbed the kid's wrist and broke it. Randy screamed and Jeff grabbed the knife from his hand. Troy and Keith rushed Jeff, but Jeff was too quick. He threw Randy to the ground. Keith flashed out at him, but Jeff ducked and stabbed him in the arm. Keith dropped his knife and fell to the ground screaming. Troy rushed him too, but Jeff didn't even need the knife. He just punched Troy straight in the stomach and Troy went down. As he fell, he puked all over. Liu could do nothing but look in amazement at Jeff. "Jeff, how'd you?" That was all he said. They saw the bus coming and knew they'd be blamed for the whole thing. They started running as fast as they could. As they ran, they looked back and saw the bus driver rushing over to Randy and the others. As Jeff and Leo made it to school, they didn't dare tell what happened. All they did was sit and listen. Leo just thought of that as his brother beating up a few kids, but Jeff knew it was more. It was something scary. As he got that feeling, he felt how powerful it was, the urge to just hurt someone. He didn't like how it sounded, but he couldn't help feeling happy. He felt that strange feeling go away and stay away for the entire day at school. Even as he walked home, due to the whole thing near this bus stop, and how now he probably wouldn't be taking the bus anymore, he felt happy. But when he got home, his parents asked him how his day was, and he said in a somewhat ominous voice, "It was a wonderful day." Next morning, he heard a knock at the front door. He walked down to find 2 police officers at the door, his mother looking back at him with an angry look. "Jeff, these officers tell me that you attacked 3 kids. That it wasn't regular fighting, and that they were stabbed." "Stabbed, son." Jeff's gaze fell to the floor, showing his mother that it was true. "Mom, they were the ones who pulled the knife out on me and Leo." "Son," said one of these cops, "we found 3 kids, 2 stabbed, and 1 having a bruise on his stomach. And we have witnesses proving that you fled the scene. Now, what does that tell us?" Jeff knew it was no use. He could say him and Leo had been attacked, but there was no proof it was them who attacked first. They couldn't say that they weren't fleeing, because truth be told they were, so Jeff couldn't defend himself or Leo. "Son, call down your brother." Jeff couldn't do it, since it was him who beat up the kids. "Sir, it was me. I was the one who beat up those kids. Leo tried to hold me back, but he couldn't stop me." The cop looked at his partner and they both nod. "Well, kid, looks like a year in juvie." "Wait," says Leo. They all looked up to see him holding a knife. The officers pulled their guns and locked them at Leo. "It was me. I beat up those little punks. I have marks to prove it." He lifted up his sleeve to reveal cuts and bruises, as if he was in a struggle. "Son, just put the knife down," said the officer. Leo held up the knife and dropped it to the ground. He put his hands up and walked over to the cops. "No, Leo, it was me. I did it." Jeff had tears running down his face. "Huh? Poor bro, trying to take the blame for what I did. Well, take me away." The police led Leo out to the patrol car. "Leo, tell them it was me. Tell them. I was the one who beat up those kids." Oh, sorry, hang on. Oh, it looped. Nice. Okay, sorry. Sorry, I thought the background music was gonna end soon, but it looped. Sorry. Jeff, please, you don't have to lie. We know it's Leo. You can stop. Jeff watched helplessly as the cop car speeds off with Leo inside. A few minutes later, Jeff's car pulled into the driveway. Seeing Jeff's face and knowing something was wrong. Son, what was it?" Jeff couldn't answer. His vocal cords were strained from crying. Instead, Jeff's mother walked his father inside the house to break the bad news to him as Jeff wept in the driveway. After an hour or so, Jeff walked back into the house, seeing that his parents were both shocked, sad, and disappointed. He couldn't look at them. He couldn't see how they thought of Leo when it was his fault. He just went to sleep, trying to get the whole thing off his mind. 2 days went by, with no word from Leo at I think juvie. No friends to hang out with. Nothing but sadness and guilt. That is until Sunday, when Jeff was woken up by his mother with a happy, sunshiny face. "Jeff, it's the day," she said as she opened up the curtains and let light flood into his room. "Wait, what's today?" asked Jeff as he stirs awake. "Why, it's Billy's party." He was now fully awake. "Mum, you're joking, right? You don't expect me to come to some kid's party after?" There was a long pause. "Jeff, we both know what happened. I think this party could be a thing that brightens up these past days. Now get dressed." Jeff's mother walked out of the room and downstairs to get ready herself. He forced himself to get up. He picked out a random shirt and a pair of jeans and walked downstairs. He saw his mother and father all dressed up. His mother in a dress and his father in a suit. He thought, why they would ever wear such fancy clothes to a kid's party. "Son, is that all you're going to wear?" said Jeff's mom. "Better than wearing too much," he said. His mother pushed down the feeling to yell at him and hid it with a smile. "Now, Jeff, you may be overdressed. This is how you want to go make an impression," said his father. Jeff grunted and went back up to his room. "I don't have any fancy clothes," he yelled downstairs. "Just pick out something," called his mother. He looked around his closet and for what he would call fancy, he found a pair of black dress pants he had for special occasions and an undershirt. He couldn't find a shirt to go with it though. He looked around and found only a striped and patterned shirts, none of which would go with dress pants. Finally, he found a white hoodie to go with. A white hoodie and put it on. "Wearing that?" they both said. His mother looked at her watch. "Oh, no time to change. Let's just go," she said as she herded Jeff and his father out of the door. They crossed the street over at Barbara and Billy's house. They knocked on the door, and it appeared that Barbara, just like his parents, were way overdressed. As they walked inside, all Jeff could see were adults, no kids. "The kids are out in the yard." "So how about you go meet some of them," said Barbara. Jeff walked outside to a yard full of kids. They were running around in weird cowboy costumes and shooting each other with plastic guns. He might as well be standing in a Toys R Us. Suddenly, a kid came up to him and handed him a toy gun and hat. "Hey, wanna play?" he said. No kid, I'm way too old for this stuff." The kid looked at him with a weird puppy dog face. "Please," said the kid. "Fine," said Jeff. He put on the hat and started to pretend shoot at the kids. At first he thought it was totally ridiculous, but then he started to actually have fun. It might not be super cool, but for the first time he had done something that took his mind off of Leo. So he played with the kids for a while until he heard a noise. A weird rolling noise. Then it hit him. Randy, Troy, and Keith all jumped over the fence on their skateboards. Jeff dropped the fake gun and ripped off the hat. Randy looked at Jeff with burning hatred. "Hello, Jeff, is it?" he said. "We have some unfinished business." Jeff saw his bruised nose. "I think we're even. I beat the crap out of you, and you got my brother sent to JDC. Randy got an angry look in his eyes. "Oh no, I don't go for even, I go for winning. You may have kicked our asses that one day, but not today." As he said that, Randy rushed at Jeff. They both fell to the ground. Randy punched Jeff in the nose, and Jeff grabbed him by the ears and headbutted him. Jeff pushed Randy off of him, and they both rose to their feet. Kids were screaming and parents were running out of the house. Troy and Keith both pulled the guns out of their pockets. No one interrupts or guts will fly," they said. Randy pulled a knife on Jeff and stabbed him in the shoulder. Jeff screamed and fell to his knees. Randy started kicking him in the face. After 3 kicks, Jeff grabs his foot and twists it, causing Randy to fall to the ground. Jeff stood up and walked towards the back door. Troy grabbed him. "Need some help?" He picks Jeff up by the back of the collar and throws him through the patio door. As Jeff tries to stand, he kicked him down to the ground. Randy repeatedly starts kicking Jeff until he finally starts to cough up blood. "Come on, Jeff, fight me." He picks Jeff up and throws him into the kitchen. Randy sees a bottle of vodka on the counter and smashes the glass over Jeff's head. "Fight!" He throws Jeff back into the living room. "Come on, Jeff, look at me." Jeff glances up, his face riddled with blood. "I was the one who got your brother sent to JDC, and now you're just gonna sit here and let him rot in there for a whole year? You should be ashamed." Jeff starts to get up. "Oh, finally you stand up, fight." Jeff is now at his feet, blood and vodka on his face. Once again, he gets that strange feeling, the one which he hadn't felt for a while. "Finally, he's up," says Randy as he runs to Jeff. That's when it happens. Something inside Jeff snaps. His psyche is destroyed. All rational thinking is gone. All he can do is kill. He grabs Randy and pile drives him into the ground. He gets on top of him and punches him straight in the heart. The punch causes Randy's heart to stop. As Randy gasps for air, Jeff hammers down on him. Punch after punch, blood gushes from Randy's body until he takes one final breath and dies. Everyone is looking at Jeff now. The parents, the crying kids, even Troy and Keith. Although they easily break from their gaze and point their guns at Jeff, Jeff sees the guns trained on him and runs for the stairs. As he runs, Troy and Keith let fire on him, each shot missing. Jeff runs up the stairs. He hears Troy and Keith follow behind. As they let their final rounds of bullets, Jeff ducks into the bathroom. He grabs the towel rack and rips it off the wall. Troy and Keith race in, knives ready. Troy swings his knife at Jeff, who backs away and bangs the towel rack into Troy's face. Troy goes down hard, and now all that's left is Keith. He is more agile than Troy though, and ducks when Jeff swings the towel rack. He dropped the knife and grabbed Jeff by the neck. He pushed him into the wall. A thing of bleach fell down on top of him from the top shelf. It burnt both of them, and they both started to scream. Jeff wiped his eyes as best as he could. He pulled back the towel rack and swung it straight into Keith's head. As he lay there, bleeding to death, he let out an ominous smile. "What's so funny?" asked Jeff. Keith pulled out a lighter and switched it on. "What's funny," he said, "is that you're covered in bleach and alcohol." Jeff's eyes widened as Keith threw the lighter at him. As soon as the flame made contact with him, the flames ignited the alcohol in the vodka. While the alcohol burned him, the bleach burned his skin. Jeff let out a terrible screech as he was caught on fire. He tried to roll out the fire, but it was no use. The alcohol had made him into a walking inferno. He ran down the hall and fell down the stairs. Everybody started to scream as they saw Jeff, now a man on fire, dropped to the ground, nearly died. The last thing Jeff saw was his mother and one of the parents trying to extinguish the flame, but then he passed out. When Jeff woke up, he had a cast wrapped around his face. He couldn't see anything, but he felt a cast on his shoulder and stitches all over his body. He tried to stand up, but then realized that there was some tube in his arm. And when he tried to get up, it fell out, and a nurse rushed in. "I don't think you can get out of bed just yet," she said, as she put him back in bed and reinserted the tube. Jeff sat there, with no vision, no idea of what his surroundings were. Finally, after hours, he heard his mother. "Honey, are you okay?" she asked. Jeff couldn't answer though. His face was covered, and he was unable to speak. "Oh honey, I've great news. After all the witnesses told the police that Randy confessed to trying to attack you, they decided to let Leo go." This made Jeff almost bolt up, stopping halfway, remembering the tube coming out of his arm. "He'll be out by tomorrow, and then you two will be able to be together again." Jeff's mother hugs Jeff and says her goodbyes. The next couple of weeks were those where Jeff was visited by his family. Then came the day where his bandages were to be removed. His family were all there to see it. What he would look like as the doctors unwrapped the bandages. From Jeff's face, everybody was on the edge of their seats. They waited until the last bandage holding the cover of his face was almost removed. "Let's hope for the best," said the doctor, as he quickly pulls the cloth, letting the rest fall from Jeff's face. Jeff's mother screams at the sight of his face. Liu and Jeff's dad stare in awe, struck by his face. What happened to my face?" Jeff said. He rushed out of bed and ran to the bathroom. He looked in the mirror and saw the cause of the distress. His face, it's horrible. His lips were burnt to the deep shade of red. His face was turned into a pure white color, and his hair singed from brown to black. He slowly put his hand on his face. There was some sort of leathery feel to it now. He looked back at his family, then back at the mirror. "Jeff," said Liu, it's not that bad." "Not that bad," said Jeff. "It's perfect." His family were equally surprised. Jeff started laughing uncontrollably. His parents noticed that his left eye and hands were twitching. Jeff, you okay?" "Okay? I've never felt more happy." "Look at me. This face goes perfectly with me." He couldn't stop laughing. He stroked his face, feeling it, looking at it in the mirror. What caused this? Well, you may recall that when Jeff was fighting Randy, something in his mind, his sanity, snapped. Now, all that was left was a crazy killing machine. His parents didn't know. "Doctor," said Jeff's mum, "is my son alright, in the head?" "Oh yes, this behavior is typical for patients that have taken very large amounts of painkillers. If his behavior doesn't change in a few weeks, bring him back here, and we'll give him a psychological test." "Well, thank you, doctor. Jeff's mum went over to Jeff. Jeff, sweetie, it's time to go. Jeff looks away from the mirror, his face still formed into a crazy smile. "Okay, mommy." His mother took him by the shoulder and took him to get his clothes. "This is what came in," said the lady at this desk. Jeff's mum looked down to see the black dress pants and white hoodie his son wore. Now they were green with blood and stitched together. Jeff's mother led him to his room and made him put his clothes on. Then they left, not knowing that this was their final day of life. Later that night, Jeff's mother woke up to a sound coming from the bathroom. It sounded as if someone was crying. She slowly walked over to see what it was. When she looked into the bathroom, she saw a horrendous sight. Jeff had taken a knife and carved a smile into his cheeks. "Jeff, what are you doing?" asked his mother. Jeff looked over to his mother. "I couldn't keep smiling, Mommy. It hurt after a while. Now I can smile forever." Jeff's mother noticed his eyes ringed in black. "Jeff, your eyes!" His eyes seemingly never closing. "I couldn't see my face. I got tired of my eyes started to close. I burned out the eyelids so I could forever see myself, my new face." Jeff's mother slowly started to back away, seeing that her son was going insane. "What's wrong, Mommy? Aren't I beautiful?" "Yes, son," she said. You are. Let me go get Daddy so he can see your face." She ran into the room and shook Jeff's dad from his sleep. "Honey, get the gun, She stopped as she saw Jeff in the doorway holding a knife. "Mommy, you lied." That's the last thing they heard as Jeff rushed them with a knife, gutting both of them. His brother Lease woke up, startled by some noise. He didn't hear anything else, so he just shut his eyes and tried going back to sleep. As he was on the border of slumber, he got the strangest feeling that somebody was watching him. He looked up before Jeff's hand covering his mouth. He slowly raised the knife, ready to plunge it into Liu. Liu dashed here and there, trying to escape Jeff's grip. Jeff said, "Just go to sleep." Ooh. Spooky. Did you guys like that one? It's interesting how they make that just off of like that image. I find it cool how they made the like the concept that he was like his face was burnt. People always drew Jeff as a hot anime twink, and he'd really look just horrendous, and I think it's funny. When I looked up Jeff the Killer on Google to try and like find some pictures of him I have on the screen, yeah, they were all like anime pictures, and I found it, yeah, I think that is really funny. But yeah, I feel bad for the brother though. Like he went down for Jeff, and then yeah, that happened. Although I don't know, as I mentioned when I started the stream, it's just a bit of like fun, you know. It's not supposed to be great storytelling or anything, but yeah. Okay. Yeah. He literally sacrificed himself for his brother, then his brother was like, "Okay, now I kill you." Yeah, that's sad. But okay, I'm gonna read you guys one more now. One's just a bit of fun, or at least this is one I've seen before. Well, I saw a video of this. I didn't actually read it. Okay, this is. Okay, be prepared to be scared. Ooh, Sonic.exe. Scary Sonic. Why is Sonic so scary? This is Sonic.exe. I actually really like stuff like this because, yeah, because it, like, I guess it's about kind of a cursed game. Now, this actually reminds me of one of the first, not copypastas, but like creepy things I ever saw, like unprovoked on the internet. It was a download I got. I can't exactly remember where it was from, but it was some, I think it was Equestria Daily. It used to have downloadable games. I think after this they like got rid of them. But it was a Princess, fuck, it wasn't Princess Celestia. It was Princess Luna. Yeah, Princess Luna. Yeah, the Princess Luna game. I actually played that. I was one of those poor souls that didn't know it was a scary game, and I downloaded it and scared the shit out of me. So this is somewhat nostalgic because it reminds me of playing that game. So yeah, I don't really know how long this one is, but yeah, it really scared me, and I don't really download things anymore. Yeah. What the fuck is this? Look at this. Go to sleep, kudasai. Like, oh, you can't really see it that well. I played Luna game when it came out, and I got like, this crap scared out of me, and I was like, oh my god, I was scared. We are. I think we've lived like the same life or something. Okay, shall we read Sonic.exe? This is just a little bit of fun. Okay. Alright. I don't know how long this one is, but I don't think it's as long, but I guess we'll see. I'm a total Sonic the Hedgehog fan, much like everyone else. I like the newer games, but I don't mind playing the classics. I don't think I've ever played glitchy or hacked games before, though I don't think I want to play any after the experience I had. It started on a nice summer afternoon. I was playing Sonic Unleashed. I liked how you get to explore the towns in it, until I noticed, out of my peripheral vision, that the mailman had arrived and put something in my mailbox as usual, and left. I paused the game to see what I got in the mail. The only thing in the mailbox was a CD case for computers and a note. I took it inside. I looked at the note first and realized that it was from my dear friend Kyle. Let's just call him that. Whom I hadn't heard in 2 weeks. I know that because I recognized his handwriting, though what was weird is how it looked. It looked badly written and scratchy, and somewhat difficult to read, as if Kyle was having a hard time writing it down, and did it in a hurry. This is what he wrote. Tom, I can't take it anymore. I had to get rid of this thing somehow before it was too late, and I was hoping you'd do it for me. I can't do it. He's after me, and if you don't destroy this CD, he'll come after you too. He's too fast for me. Please, Tom, destroy this godforsaken disc before he comes after you too. It's too late for me. Destroy the disc, and you'll destroy him. But do it quick, otherwise he'll catch you. Don't even play the game. It's what he wants. Just destroy it. Please, Kyle. Well, that was certainly weird. Even though Kyle is my best friend and I hadn't seen him in 2 weeks, I didn't do what he had asked me. I don't think that a simple gaming disc would do anything bad for him. After all, it's just a game, right? Boy, was I wrong about that. Anyway, I looked at the disc and it looks like any other ordinary computer CDR disc, except it had a black marker on it written Sonic.exe, and it was much unlike Kyle's handwriting, meaning that he must have gotten it from someone else, like a pawn shop or eBay. When I saw Sonic on the writing on the CD, I was actually excited and wanted to play it, since I'm a big Sonic fan. I went up to my room and turned on my computer and put the disc in and installed the game. When the title screen popped up, I noticed it was the first Sonic game. I was like, awesome. But like I said earlier, I like the classics. The first thing I noticed that was out of place when I pressed start, there was a split second when I saw the title image turn into something much different. Something that now I consider horrifying, before cutting to black. I remember what the image looked like in a split second. Before the game cut to black, the sky had darkened, the title emblem was rusted and ruined. The Sega 1991 was now Sega 666, and the water had turned red, like blood. But the freakiest thing was that for a split second frame, the Sonic, his eyes were pitch black and bleeding with two glowing red dots staring right at me, and his smile had stretched wider up the edge of his face. I was rather disturbed about the image when I saw it, though I figured it was just a glitch and forgot about it. After it cut to black, I stayed like that for about 10 seconds or so, and then another weird thing happened. The save file select from Sonic the Hedgehog 3 popped up, and I was like, what the fuck? What's this doing in the first Sonic game? Anyway, then I noticed something off. The background was the dark cloudy sky of the Bad Starburst Speedway level from Sonic CD. And there were only 3 save files. The music was that creepy Cabins of Winter music from Earthbound, only it was extended and seemed to have been in reverse. And the image from the save file where you see the preview of the level you're on was just red static for 3 files. What freaked me out more was the character select. It showed Tails, Knuckles, and to my surprise, Dr. Robotnik. Now, I was sure that something was up. I mean, how can you play as Robotnik in the classic Sonic game, for crying out loud? That's when I realized that it wasn't a glitchy game, it was a hacked game. Yeah, it definitely looked hacked. It was really creepy. But as a smart gamer, I wasn't scared, or at least I tried not to be. I told myself that it was just a hacked game, and there's nothing wrong with it. Anyways, taking off the creeped out feeling, I picked file 1 and chose Tails, and when I selected and got started, the game froze for about 5 seconds. I heard a creepy pixelated laugh that sounded an awful lot like Kefka guy from Final Fantasy was cutting to black. The screen stayed black for about 10 seconds or more, then it showed the typical level title thing, except the simplistic shapes were different shades of red and text slowly showed only Hill, Act 1. The screen faded in and the level title vanishing, revealing Tails in Green Hill Zone from Sonic 1. The music was different though, it sounded like a peaceful melody in reverse. Anyway, I started playing and had Tails start running, like you would in any other classic Sonic game. What was odd was that Tails was running along the level like there was nothing but flat ground and a few trees for 5 minutes. That was when the peaceful music started to lower down into a slow, deep tone, very slowly as I kept going. I suddenly saw something and I stopped to see what it was. It was one of the small animals lying dead on the ground bleeding. That was when the music started to slow down. Tails had a shocked and saddened look on his face, and I never saw him had before. So I had him move along and kept that worried look on his face. As he kept moving, I saw more dead animals as Tails moved past them, looking more and more worried as the music lowers and he moves past more dead animals. I was shocked to see how they all died. They looked like somebody killed them in rather gruesome ways. A squirrel was hanging on a tree that appeared to have its entrails hanging out. A bunny had all 4 limbs torn off, and a duck had his eyes gouged out from his throat slit. I felt sick to my stomach when I saw this massacre, and apparently so did Tails. After a few more seconds, there was no more animals and the music seemed to have stopped. I still kept Tails to continue. After a minute passed, after the music stopped, Tails was running up a hill, and then he stopped. It wasn't until I saw why. Sonic was there on the other side of the screen, with his back against Tails with his eyes closed. Tails looked happy to see Sonic, but then his smiles faltered, obviously noticing that Sonic wasn't responding to him. If not acting as if he was totally oblivious of Tails' presence, Tails walked slowly towards Sonic, and I noticed that I wasn't even moving my keyboard to make him move. So this all had been a cutscene. Suddenly, I began to have a growing feeling of dread as Tails walked closer towards Sonic to get his attention. I felt that Tails was in danger and something bad was going to happen. I heard faint static growing louder as Tails was but inches away from Sonic and stopped and stuck his hand out to touch him. That foreboding feeling in my gut was growing stronger, and I felt the urge to tell Tails to get away from Sonic as the static grew louder. Suddenly, in a split second, I saw Sonic's eyes open, and they were all black with those red glowing dots, just like the title image. Thought there wasn't a smile when that. They were black with those red glowing dots. Glowing dots. Just like that title image. Thought there wasn't a smile. He miswrote it. Though there wasn't a smile. When that happened, the screen turned black and the static sound was off. It stayed black for about 7 seconds, and then the title appeared, forming a message saying, "Hello, do you want to play with me?" At this point I was creeped out. I didn't want to continue with the game, but my curiosity got the better of me when I was taken to a different level, with the title now saying Hide and Seek. That time I was in the Angel Island level from Sonic 3, and it looked like everything was on fire. Tails looked as though he was scared out of his wits this time. He actually looked at me and made frantic gestures at me as if he wanted to get out of this area as fast as possible. I was starting to get freaked out by this. Tails was actually breaking the fourth wall, trying to tell me to get him out of there. So I pressed down on the arrow key as hard as I could to make him run as fast as he could. A pixelated version of that creepy theme when you meet Shadow at the Ark as Robotnik from Sonic Adventure 2 was playing, as I made Tails trek through the desolate forest, trying to help him escape from whatever he was trying to run from. Suddenly, I heard that creepy laugh again. The awful Kefka laugh. Right after 10 seconds had passed as I helped Tails run through the forest, and then I started seeing flashes of Sonic popping everywhere on screen, again with those black and red eyes. The music changed, that suspenseful, drowning jingle, as I see Sonic behind Tails gaining up on him, flying. Sonic wasn't running, he was actually flying. The flying pose his sprite was making looked very similar to Metal Sonic's flying pose in Sonic CD, except it was just Sonic, and he had black and red eyes again. Only this time, he had the most deranged looking grin on his face. It looked as though he was enjoying the torment he was giving the poor little fox as he gained up on him. Suddenly when Tails tripped, another cutscene, the music stopped and Sonic vanished. Tails laid there and started crying for 15 seconds. The scene was rather unsettling to watch, and I kind of teared up myself. But then Sonic appeared right in front of Tails, and Tails looked up in horror. Blood started to come down those blackened eyes as Sonic's grin slowly grew from his face, and he looked down at the horrified fox. I could do nothing but watch. Just in a split second, Sonic lunged at Tails right before the screen went black. There was a loud screeching noise that only lasted 5 seconds. The text returned, only this time it was saying, "You're too slow, want to try again?" And then that god-awful laugh came with it. I was so shocked by what had happened. Did Sonic murder Tails? No, he couldn't have. He and Tails are supposed to be best friends, right? Why did Sonic have to do that to him? I took the shock off as I brought back to the character select. The save file that had Tails was different. Tails was no longer in the box itself, but in the TV screen itself, which is flickering with the red static. Tails' expressions scared me. His eyes were black and bleeding, his orange fur had gone, and he had an expression of anguish on his face. Trying to ignore it, I picked Knuckles next. Laugh came again, and the screen cut to black again, and stayed there for another 10 seconds. This time the level said, "You can't run." I was really freaked out by now. I couldn't really tell if this was a glitch or a hack or some kind of sick, twisted joke or anything really, but despite my fear of what happened next, I kept playing. The next level looked much different. We had the ground of Scrap Brain Zone, but the sky background looked like the main menu. It had the dark reddish cloud sky, but the music creeped out. But the music creeped me out the most. It sounded like Giga's theme right after you beat Pokey in Earthbound. I also noticed that Knuckles looked afraid, just like Tails did, though not as much. More rather, he looked a little unnerved. He broke the fourth wall just like Tails, and looked as if he wasn't sure what was going on. But I made him move anyway. He ran down the straight pathway in this dark level, and as he did, the screen started to flicker red static a couple of times, and then that maddening laugh came again. Then, after a few seconds of running, I noticed several bloodstains on the metallic ground. I felt a growing sense of fear, thinking something horrible is going to happen to Knuckles. He looked nauseated, walking down this blood-stained road, but I still kept going. Suddenly, as Knuckles ran, Sonic appeared right in front of him with those black and red eyes. And then red static appeared again. And when the static vanished, showing nothing but the black screen with text saying, "Found you," I was now scared. Sonic found Knuckles already? What was going on? Anyway, red static came again, and then I was back to the level. Knuckles looked like he was panicking. And Sonic was nowhere to be found. And this time, that high-pitched squealing from Silent Hill 1's final boss was playing. Was that some kind of boss battle with Sonic? I hope to God it wasn't, honestly. Suddenly, Sonic appeared behind Knuckles, in what appeared to be a pixelated black smoke. I made Knuckles turn, and then punched Sonic, but Sonic vanished in black pixelated smoke before I could even land a hit. That terrible laugh went off again. And Sonic appeared behind Knuckles again, and then I made him punch again, and Sonic vanished again laughing. Knuckles was panicking even more, and even I felt like I was going crazy. Sonic was practically playing with us. He was playing a sick, twisted little mind game with me and Knuckles. Another cutscene played as Knuckles fell to his knees and clutched his head, sobbing. I felt his agony. Sonic was actually driving us both crazy. And then in a split second, Sonic lunged at Knuckles and the screen went black, and with another distorted screeching noise that lasted at least 3 seconds. Another text message appears. So many souls to play with, so little time. Would you agree? What the hell? Just what was going on? I started to think Sonic was actually trying to talk to me through the game, but I was too scared to think that. I was brought back to the main menu, and this time, the second file box had Knuckles in the TV screen. His red fur had darkened to a reddish grey. His dreadlocks were dripping with blood and red eyes, and his eyes were black and bleeding too, and he had a look of sadness on his face. I began to think that the actual characters trapped in those... I began to think that those are the actual characters trapped in those TV screens on the save files, but I couldn't believe it. I didn't want to believe it. So I shut off the game and took a break. I took a nap. I wish I hadn't, because I then began to have the most disturbing nightmare. I was in a pitch black darkness, so I was under the light given off by the lamp that hung high above my head. I could hear the cries of Knuckles and Tails nearby. They were saying stuff like, "Help us," and "Why did you give us to him?" and "Run away before he gets you too." Their cries died out as I heard Sonic laugh. He laughed. It sounded a lot like the distorted Kefka laugh. You're a lot of fun to play with, kid, just like your friend Kyle, though he didn't last long. I was scared and looking around the source of the voice. Won't be long now until you join him and all my friends. I saw him walking towards me, flickering in and out of several directions. You can't run, kid. You're in my world now, just like the others. When he grabbed me, I saw his bleeding, black and red-eyed, grinning face. I woke up with a fright. After a couple of hours, I decided to continue playing the game. I don't know why, but I had to know. I had to figure out what's happening. So I turned on the computer, turned on the game, and selected Robotnik next. I still thought that was wacky, playing as Robotnik. But anyway, the title level appeared again, and in the time it said ... which I found really freaky. This time, I was in some kind of hallway. Didn't really look like it from the classic Sonic games, though it had the kind of pixelated style. The floor was shiny and checkered. The walls were dark... Huh? The walls were shiny and checkered. Am I saying something wrong? Why are you smugging at me? Anyway, oh, okay, okay. Oh, okay, sorry. Oh, sorry, I'm stupid. Okay. It didn't really look like it from any other Sonic games, though it had a pixelated style. The floor was shiny and checkered. The walls were a dark greyish purple with animated candle lights and a few dark bloodstains here and there. And there was a dark red curtain hanging above the top part of the screen. Every 12 seconds or so, that red blood curtain sways very slowly. But whenever you're playing the game, you can barely see it move. The music was oddly pleasant, a piano playing, a rather sad yet peaceful song. But I knew better. This was a song that played in Hill Act 1, only it wasn't in reverse. Robotnik didn't look entirely nervous like Tails and Knuckle did, but he did have a suspicious look on his face, as if he was a bit paranoid. He did a little animation when I just left him standing. He turns his head to the left and then to the right, at least twice, and then shrugs at me, as if he has no idea where he was going or what was going on, even though I was scared out of my mind about what was going to happen. I had Robotnik continue onward. It was his usual running animation, you know, when you've beaten him at the end of the classic Sonic game and you chase him, as he continued going through the hallway. When I stopped at a long flight of stairs leading downward, now I was nervous. Even Robotnik seemed unsure of himself, though I pressed onward. As I led Robotnik down the stairs, I noticed that the walls had gotten darker and more reddish. The red torches are now an eerie blue. Then we landed into another hallway. This was much longer than the last one, or at least felt like it. And then we headed down another flight of stairs, this one much longer. It took at least 1 full minute. And then I heard a horrid Kefka laugh again, and then the music slowly faded until it was quiet. As it did, the walls turned more dark and red, and the torches were a black flame now. When Robotnik landed onto the third hallway, I noticed he looked really creeped out, though he tried to hide it. I couldn't blame him, I was scared too. Suddenly, Sonic popped it right in front of Robotnik, the same way he did with Knuckles, and then red static. The red static lasted for about 15 seconds, and then he showed me a most unpleasant image. The image showed an image of Sonic standing in the darkness, but you can only see his face, while his head and torso faded into black. He looked so real, you could actually see the lines of blue fur, as if you could actually see the fur if you touched the screen. His face, oh god, he had the most horrifying smile I'd ever seen. His eyes were wide and black, once again crying blood. There were 2 small glowing red dots on his black eyes, staring right at me, as if staring into my mind. His grin was wide and demonic. It literally stretched to the sides of his face like a Cheshire cat, except Sonic had fangs. Very sharp fangs, much like the werewolf's teeth, except more vicious looking. Somewhat yellowish from the look of it, he had stains of blood and small bits of flesh on his lips and fangs as if he had eaten some animal. I stared at the gruesome image for a good 30 seconds, never taking my eyes off of it. I felt as if he was actually looking at me, smiling at me. That face. It took 10 seconds for it to etch itself into my brain for good. Then the screen flickered with red static again 3 times, and on the 3rd time, I heard the Kefka laugh, except this time it sounded distorted, demonic even. It went back to the image again, except this time there was the text. Again, though it was messed up. But it was pretty much one of the most horrifying things I had looked at since this game. I am God. It was when I read this message while looking at Sonic when it hit me. I realized right there and then. This Sonic was a monster, a pure evil, sadistic, all-powerful, nightmarish, demented monster. And all of these victims, including Tails, Knuckles, and Robotnik, and possibly Kyle, are just his little toys. And the game is a very gateway into his chaotic, nightmarish, and the very hell that his victims are trapped in. Suddenly, in an actual split second, I screamed as Sonic lunged at the screen, screeching loudly at his mouth, turned his mouth wide open to an unnatural length, revealing nothing but a literal spiraling abyss of pure darkness before the red static came again. This time much louder and distorted, so loud that it hurt my ears. I yelled and grabbed my ears as the red static screeched for a good 7 seconds. Then it stopped and showed nothing but black screen. As I sat there at the black screen, one last text came up. Ready for round 2, Tom? The Kiki laugh, now sounding more clear as if Sonic was right behind me, played again 3 times as I looked at the text in shock and confusion. Then I got booted back to the main menu. This time, the 3rd save file had a TV image of Robotnik in the same tormented state as Tails and Knuckles. Robotnik's skin turned dull grey, his mustache drooped and had blackened. His glasses broke and blood is coming from them, and he had a mere dead-like expression on his face. I looked at Tails, Knuckles, and Robotnik and cried a bit. I pitied them. I pitied them for the agony they're going through, but they were forever trapped within the game, forever tormented by that horrid hedgehog, and will always be. Then the computer shut itself off, and I couldn't turn it back on no matter what I did. I sat there for maybe 25 seconds, horrified on what had just happened. Sonic is the very embodiment of evil. Oh, sorry. Sonic is the very embodiment of evil. He tortures the people who play this game in more ways than one, and then when he gets bored, he drags you into the game, literally drags you to hell, where he can play with you, always as his toy. I can't get this game out of my computer. I think it's stuck in there, but at least I managed to turn it back on now. After I sat there for 25 seconds, I heard a voice right behind me like a whisper. Try to keep this interesting for me, Tom. I turned around to see where the voice came from, and what I saw made me scream. Sitting on my bed, staring right at me, was a Sonic plushie, smiling, with blood stains under his eyes. And that's the end. Sonic EXE. Chaos. Wait a sec. Did you guys like my spooky creepypastas? I hope you guys liked those. I hope you guys enjoyed me reading them and stuff. Now, just give me 1 second, okay? I'll be right back. Okay. 1 second, please wait a sec. Hi, sorry, I'm back, guys. I was just dipping me mugs out and everything. Sorry for leaving you alone. Sorry. Yeah, no, I'm fine. I was just getting comfy and stuff. I actually kind of want to get some water. I'm sorry. Just give me a second. Listen, I'll stay. I'll have my little head. I have my little head here, so I won't leave. Okay, I'll still be here. Just give me a sec, okay? Okay. Yeah. Okay, sorry. I got my water. I hope you guys aren't too nervous or anything these days. Are you guys okay? You okay, Champy? Just give me one humble moment. Now, I did see a Champy that sent me a marshmallow. I'll see how long it is. But they did recommend one that was their favorite. If you just give me a sec. They said that this one was their favorite one. Let me just see. So, if it's not too long, I'll try and find it and give it a little read. Okay. Yeah. Alright, let me see if I can find it. Okay. Okay. Ooh, this looks spooky. This looks spooky. This looks really spooky these days. Alright, let's see. Oh, this one's not long at all. Oh, okay. Well, let's read this one. Let me just find a good image for it, and then we'll read it. So this is one that a Champy said was their favorite. So I want to read this, and then I will comfort you all because I know it's been a really spooky day for everyone. Okay. I know it's been really terrifying for everyone. Oh, I don't think there's a picture for it. Okay, well, we'll have to use our imaginations for this one, okay? Alright, let me just schnazzle. Let me just do a schnaz, and then we'll, give this a little go, okay? Give this a little go. Alright. Okay, so this one's called Where Bad Kids Go. The spooky one. Alright? Apparently. If you guys have any ones you like as well, maybe I'll read them another time. But it's just because it's... Oh, thank you for the picture. Thank you, this will be fine. This will work fine. Alright, I'll use this image then. Thanks, Champy. This is a spooky picture for it. Ta-da! This is because I feel like it helps with the immersion if I add a picture. Yeah. Way. Alright. So this one's called Where Bad Kids Go. Give this one a read, okay? Try not to get too scared. Alright. Give this one a little go, shall we? Alright. I must have been okay. I must have been 6 or 7 when I lived in Lebanon. The country was ravaged by war at the time, and murders were common and frequent. I remember during a particularly vicious era, when the bombings rarely stopped, I would stay at home sitting in front of my television watching a very, very strange show. It was a kids' show that lasted about 30 minutes and contained strange and sinister images. This day, I believe it was a thinly veiled attempt on the part of the media to use scare tactics to keep kids in place, because the moral of every episode revolved around very uptight ideologies. Stuff like, bad kids stay up late, bad kids have their hands under the covers when they sleep, bad kids steal food from the fridge at night. It was very weird, and in Arabic to top it off. I don't understand much of it, but for the most part the images were very graphic and comprehensive. The thing that stuck with me the most, however, was the closing scene. It remained much the same in every episode. The camera would zoom in an old, rusted, closed door. As it got closer, the strange and sometimes very agonizing screams would become more audible. It was extremely frightening, especially for children's programming. The text would appear on the screen in Arabic reading, "That's where bad kids go." Eventually, both the image and the sound would fade out, and that would be the end of the episode. About 15 or 16 years ago, I became a journalistic photographer. The show had been in my mind all my life, popping up in my thoughts sporadically. Eventually, I'd had enough, and decided to do some research. I finally managed to uncover the location of the studio where much of that channel's programming had been recorded. Upon further research, and eventually traveling on the site, I found it was now desolate and had been abandoned after the big war ended. I entered the building with my camera. It was burnt from the inside. Either a fire had broken out, or someone had wanted to incinerate all of the wooden furniture. After a few hours of cautiously making my way into the studio snapping pictures, I found an isolated, out-of-the-way room. After having to break through a few old locks and managing to break the heavy door open, I remained frozen in the doorway for several long minutes. Traces of blood, feces, and tiny bone fragments lay scattered across the floor. There was a small room, and an extremely morbid scene. What truly frightened me, though, what made me turn away and never want to come back, was the bolted caged microphone hanging from the ceiling in the middle of the room. Oh, that was good. Not too edgy or anything, just good. That show must have been like actually like a place, showing a place where bad kids go and stuff. That's terrifying. Yeah. Spooky. Very spooky, ooky. Did you guys like that one? That was a good recommendation, Champies. Short and sweet. My humble opinion. Yeah. Oh, so which one out of all of yours was your favorite? I want to know. Yeah, it seemed like kind of more realistic. Something that could actually oh, I mean, maybe not aired on TV, but it seems like something that could actually like happen. Well, let me know, what was like your favorite one? I like that one, but I don't know. Yeah, I wish it's a really good concept. It could have been cool if they went more into it. I don't know which one I liked the most. I liked all of them. I think Smiling Jack was good, yeah. The last one was good as well. The Sonic one was pretty funny. That was decent. And the I don't know. Was it? I don't know. That was spooky, or was it? I don't know. That was a spooky story? Yeah. I think the first one was a bit too gory, but I really liked the concept, especially at the start. I feel like they could have done more of it. And then the second one was alright. Do you guys have any other recommendations? Most likely, like, shorter ones? Even if it was kind of over the top with the gore? Yeah, no, I agree. But yeah, if you guys have any other recommendations, I'll read them quickly. Yeah. That was really terrifying. Sorry, you can link it in the bread if you're in there. Okay, let me look at this one. Autopilot. Let's have a little look-see. Look at the bottom of my description. Sorry. Well, this one's really long. But we'll read this one. How about I read this one? It'll be the last one I read. Just Google the portraits, it's really short. Okay, I'll read the portraits and then I'll read the other one. Ooh, this is really short. Okay. I'll just have the Sonic image in the corner, just for good measure. Okay, we'll look at the portraits. Okay, and then we'll read the other one, and then I'll stop. Sorry guys if I didn't get to yours. Okay, let's read this one. Okay. There was a hunter in the woods who, after a long day of hunting, was in the middle of an immense forest. It was getting dark, and having lost his bearings, he decided to head in one direction until he was clear of the increasingly oppressive foliage. After what seems like hours, he came across a cabin in a small clearing. Realizing how dark it had grown, he decided to see if he could stay there for the night. He approached and found the door ajar. Nobody was inside. The hunter flopped down on the single bed, deciding to explain himself to the owner in the morning. As he looked around the inside of the cabin, he was surprised to see the walls adorned by several portraits, all painted in incredible detail. Without exception, they appeared to be staring down at him, their features twisted into looks of hatred and malice. Staring back, he grew increasingly uncomfortable, making a concerted effort to ignore the hateful faces. He turned to face the wall, and exhausted, he fell into a restless sleep. The next morning, the hunter awoke. He turned, blinking in unexpected sunlight. Looking up, he discovered that the cabin had no portraits, only windows. Ooh, that was weird. I don't like that twist. I don't like that twist. That's spooky. That's a spooky twist. was the spooky twist. Imagine who was looking at him. Who was it? Someone told me. Nails. Nails. Ugh. I think the good thing about that is that's like realistic, you know, not like supernatural. It's like something really Alright, let's read this last one. And then this is the last one I'm gonna read, okay? Thank you for... This one's, I think, a little bit of a longer one, but we'll read it anyway. And then I'll, yeah. Okay, this one's called Autopilot. Alright. Alright, let's read it. Okay. Let me just schnazzle this. Okay. Have you ever forgotten your phone? When did you realize you'd forgotten it? I'm guessing you didn't just smack your forehead and explain, damn, a purpose or nothing. The realization probably didn't dawn on you spontaneously. More likely, you reached for your phone, pointing open your pocket or handbag, and were momentarily confused by it not being there. Then you did a mental recap of your morning's events. Shit. In my case, my phone's alarm woke me up as normal, but I realized the battery was lower than I expected it. I was a new phone, and it had this annoying habit of leaving applications running that drained the battery overnight. So, I put it on charge while I showered instead of putting it in my bag like normal. It was a momentary slip from my routine, but that was all it took. Once in the shower, my brain got back into the routine it follows every morning, and that was it. Forgotten. This wasn't just me being clumsy. As I later researched, this is a recognized brain function. Your brain doesn't work just on one level, it works on many. Like, when you're walking somewhere, you think about your destination and avoid hazards. But you don't need to think about keeping your legs moving properly. If you did, the entire world would turn into one massive, hilarious, do-up cosplay. I wasn't thinking about regulating my breathing. I was thinking whether I should grab a coffee on the drive to work. I did. I wasn't thinking about moving my breakfast through my intestines. I was wondering whether I'd finish on time to pick up my daughter Emily from the nursery after work or get stuck in another late fee. This is one thing. There's a level of your brain that just deals with routine, that the rest of your brain can think about other things. Think about it. Think about your last commute. What do you actually remember? Probably little, if anything. Most common journeys blur into one. Recalling anyone in particular is scientifically proven to be difficult. Do something often and it becomes routine. Keep doing it and it stops being processed by the thinking bit of your brain and gets relegated to a part of your brain being dedicated to dealing with routine. Your brain keeps doing it without you thinking about it. Soon, you think about your route to work as much as you keep your legs moving when you walk. Most people call it autopilot, but there's danger there. If you have a break in your routine, your ability to remember and account for the break is only as good as your ability to stop your brain going into routine mode. Your ability to remember my phone being on the counter is only as reliable as my ability to stop my brain entering morning routine mode, which would dictate that my phone is actually in my bag. But I didn't stop my brain entering routine mode. I got in the shower as normal. Routine started, exception forgotten. Autopilot engaged. My brain was back in routine. I showered, I shaved, the radio forecasted amazing weather, I gave Emily her breakfast and loading her into the car. She was adorable that morning. She complained about the bad sun in the morning blinding her, saying it stopped her having a little sleep on the way to the nursery, and left. That was the routine. It didn't matter that my phone was on the counter, charging silently. My brain was in the routine, and in the routine my phone was in my bag. That's why I've forgotten my phone. Not clumsiness, not negligence, sorry. Nothing more than my brain entering routine mode and overriding my exception. Autopilot engaged. I left for work. It's a sweltering hot day already. The bad sun had been burning since my traitorously absent phone woke me. The steering wheel was burning hot to the touch when I sat down. I think I heard Emily shift over behind the driver's seat to get out of the glare. But I got to work, submitted the report, attended the morning meeting, It was not until I took a quick coffee break that I reached for my phone and the illusion shattered. I did a mental re-step, remembered the dying battery, remembered putting it to charge, I remember leaving it there. My phone was on the counter. Autopilot disengaged. Again, there lies the danger. Until you have that moment, the moment you reach for your phone and shatter the illusion, that part of the brain is still in routine mode. It has no reason to question the facts of your routine. That's why it's a routine. The act of repetition. It's not as if anybody could say, why didn't you remember your phone? Didn't it occur to you? How could you have forgotten? You must be negligent. This is to miss my point. My brain telling me the routine was completed as normal, despite the fact that it wasn't. It wasn't that I forgot my phone. According to my brain, according to the routine, my phone was in my bag. Why would I question it? Why would I check? Why would I suddenly remember, out of nowhere, that my phone was on the counter? My brain was wired into the routine, a routine that my phone was in my bag. The day continued to bake. The morning haze gave way to the relentless fever heat of the afternoon. Tarmac bubbled. The direct beams of heat threatened to crack the pavement. People swapped coffee for iced smoothies, jackets discarded, sleeves rolled up, ties loosened, brows mopped. The park slowly filled with sunbathers and barbecues. Window frames threatened to warp. The thermometer continued to swell. Thank fuck the offices were air-conditioned. But as ever, the furnace of the day gave way to a cooler evening. Another day, another dollar. Still cursing myself for forgetting my phone, I drove home. The day's heat had baked the inside of the car, releasing a horrible smell from somewhere. When I arrived on the driveway, the stones crunching comfortably under my tires, my wife greeted me at the door. It was Emily. Fuck. As if my phone wasn't bad enough. After everything, I'd left Emily at the fucking nursery after all. I immediately sped back to the nursery. I got the door and started practicing my excuses, wondering vainly if I could charm my way out of the late fee. I saw a piece of paper stuck on the door. Due to vandalism overnight, please use the side door, today only. Overnight? What? The door was fine this morning. I froze. My knees shook. Vandals. A change in routine. My phone was on the counter. I hadn't been here this morning. My phone was on the counter. I'd driven past because I was drinking coffee. I'd not dropped off Emily. My phone was on the counter. She moved her seat. I hadn't seen her in the mirror. My phone was on the counter. She'd fallen asleep out of the bad sun. She didn't speak when I drove past her nursery. My phone was on the counter. She changed her routine. My phone was on the counter. She changed the routine. I'd forgotten to drop her off. My phone was on the counter. 9 hours, that car, that baking sun, no air, no water, no power, no help, that heat, a steering wheel too hot to touch, that smell. I walked to the car door, numb, shock. I opened the door. My phone was on the counter and my daughter was dead. Autopilot disengaged. Oh my god, yeah, he left her in the car all day. That dumb fuck was too worried about their phone and not worried about their kid in the car. What a stupid idiot. I mean, that's something that actually happens to people though. They fucking forget about that. Oh my god. That sucks. Yeah, and I think it sucks a lot because that's like a thing that can happen. Ooh. That's horrible. Nails. Yeah. As soon as she said that there was a smell in her car, I was like, fuck, I know what's happening. But I wasn't gonna say anything. Oh my god. Yeah, that was spooky. Something like realistic too. Fucking hell. That's horrible. Okay, one more. This is another one that a champion posted in the bread, so let me just read this quickly. It's a short one. It's called The Girl... Hang on, it's called The Girl in the Photograph. But he's not negligent though, he said it himself. I know, yeah, I know. I understand the point that they were making. But still, I love how they were more fixated on the phone than like the fact that their kid was gone. I mean, yeah, sometimes that stuff just happens, but there's a point where you have a kid, you need to be more careful. It's not just a phone. But anyway, it doesn't matter. Just one more, okay? And then we'll be humble. Okay. One school day, a boy named Tom was sitting in class and doing math. It was 6 more minutes until after school. As he was doing his homework, something caught his eye. His desk was next to the window, and he turned and looked in the grass outside. It looked like a picture. When school was over, he ran to the spot where he saw it. He ran fast, as if so that no one else could grab it. He picked it up and smiled. It had a picture of the most beautiful girl he had ever seen. She had a dress with tights on and red shoes, and her hand was formed in a peace sign. It was so beautiful he wanted to meet her, so he ran all over the school and asked everyone if they knew her, or if they had seen her before. But everyone he asked answered no. He was devastated. When he was home, he asked his older sister if she knew the girl, but unfortunately she said no. It was very late, so Tom walked up the stairs, placed the picture on his bedside table, and went to sleep. In the middle of the night, Tom was awakened by a tap on his window. It was like a nail tapping. He got scared. After the tapping, he heard a giggle. He saw a shadow near his window, and he got out of his bed, walked towards the window, opened it up, and followed the giggling. By the time he reached it, it was gone. The next day, again, he asked his neighbors if he knew her. Everybody said, sorry, no. When his mother came home, he even asked her if she knew her. She said no. He went to his room, placed the picture on his desk, and fell asleep. Once again, he was awakened by tapping. He took the picture and followed the giggling. He walked across the road and suddenly got hit by a car. He was dead with the picture in his hand. The driver got out of his car and tried to help him, but it was too late. Suddenly he saw the girl and picked it up. He saw a cute girl holding up 3 fingers. Oh, she had killed 2 people already. That's why she had a peace sign. So she killed a 3rd one. Ugh, that's so weird. I don't like that. That's weird. Ew. That's ew. That's yucky. Ew, that's disgusting. Hell. Champions. That was too scary. I don't like scary stories anymore. I don't want to hear any more scary stories anymore, because that was too terrifying. But yeah, that was my spooky story head time, okay? Hey. Oh no, guys, we need to be. Go away, Sonic, you're terrifying. I don't like this mean old poo-poo head Sonic anymore. Hey. Go away, Sonic. Just scary. My onesie isn't fake, my onesie real. But that was really fun. I liked reading all those spooky stories. Do you like my spooky stories? I don't know how I'm gonna go to sleep tonight after all that spookiness. I don't even know anymore. Really terrifying. Read the spooky story. I'm gonna read you a humble story now. This is my own story that I read myself, that I wrote by myself. Okay, this is my own spooky story. Good story. Oh, sorry, I'll turn it down. Okay. There once was a girl named Kiki. And she was a rabbit. And she lived in Rabbitville with all of her friends and all of the other rabbits. And then one day there was a rabbit and his name was Little Man, and he said, "Hello, my name Little Man." And I said, "Hi Little Man, my name Kiki." And he said, "Do you wanna be friends?" And I said, "Yes. Yes. My name Kiki." And then we went to the local rabbit restaurant, and we got some carrot soup, and it was delicious. And then I said, "Little Man, do you wanna come to my house?" And he said, "Yeah, I'll come to your house." So then we went to my house, and I had my best friend there, and her name was Little Lady. And I said, "Little Man, I want to introduce you to my friend, Little Lady." And he said, "Okay." So then he met Little Lady, and they really hit it off. And then they became and then they became really close. And then a couple years later they got married. That was my story. Them being Rampa. Yeah. I hope you liked it, and I hope maybe that made you a little less nervous. I hope you guys are gonna. I said carrot soup, not parrot soup. Carrot. No, it wasn't supposed to be creepy. It's not a creepy pasta. It's a humble pasta. Humble pasta. If you ever want to write something nice, it's called a humble pasta. And if we get lots of humble pastas, then we can make a humble pasta pie. But yeah, anyway, I really enjoyed reading those out to you. I'll see you guys tomorrow in my next stream. And I don't know. I know we're supposed to be playing Silent Hill tomorrow, but I don't know. Right now I feel a little spooky ookied, so maybe I can play something fun. Well, not fun, but a little bit less scary. I guess we'll see. Anyway, I really thank you so much everyone for coming. I know it was a weird time slot for me to be streaming, so I really appreciate you being able to make it today. Very itchy. But yeah, thank you so much everyone. I hope you guys like these stories. And I hope you guys like my reading and stuff. Something story did a real number on me, yeah. His eyes are black. His eyes are black, and his eyes, they were glowing red. Yeah, it was comfy listening to you read. Oh, thank you so much. I'm glad that you liked it. Thank you. Yeah, thanks everyone for coming. I'll see you guys later, okay? Mwah? I'll see you guys later. Goodbye, everybody. I'll have another scheduled stream up later, so just look on my channel. I'll have a scheduled one, and I'll be streaming in a couple hours. So yeah. Anyway, thank you for coming, everyone, and I'll see you guys later. Thank you very much. Goodbye, everyone.